Are you tired of boring mirrors that have nothing to offer other than your reflection? Just wanna play some games! Well, you're not alone, because it makes at least two of us. I'm Ed, this is 50% Awesome, where we forget about perfection and embrace the awesome perfection. So there are a few smart mirrors out there already on the market. Maybe you've seen a mirror with a screen built in at a hotel, or maybe you've seen the Lululemon mirror or a similar smart fitness mirror. At the end of the day, they're still pretty one-dimensional while not exactly being cheap, maybe even requiring a pricey monthly membership. Going the DIY route, plenty of people have made their own smart mirrors using a Raspberry Pi combined with the excellent open source software called Magic Mirror. Magic Mirror projects are typically mostly informational dashboards, which is great, but when you factor in the cost of the display, the electronics, the actual mirror, and the frame, it can definitely add up. And for that money and time, I want my mirror to do a bit more. So I do want that informational dashboard where I can see important information at a glance, but maybe being able to follow along with a fitness routine would be cool too. Maybe I want to see how I would look as a stormtrooper. And if I get the urge to play some video games and the mirror is the closest screen to me, don't tell me I can't play games on my mirror. This is what's called a one-way mirror. Or is it two-way mirror? Hold up. NANI? Regardless of what it's called, what that means is that one side is reflective, meaning that light that hits this side gets reflected back that way, and light that comes through on the other side gets transmitted through. So that's what allows us to get this smart mirror effect. So this is what the glass looks like on the other side. You can see that it is kind of tinted, so it doesn't let all of the light through. So that's why you're seeing a dark image. But again, as long as the light from the TV is bright enough, you'll be able to see it on the other side. So to be able to turn this into a touch screen, I have this, which is an infrared touch frame, which will just basically go on top of the mirror like this. So how it works is that there are infrared lights that shine from two sides of the frame and then with receivers on the other two sides. So with that information, it's able to know exactly where I'm touching on the display. What's crazy about this though is it can actually support up to 10 points of touch. So what that means is I can literally go into Microsoft Paint, get both of my hands, all of my fingers, and each finger will be recorded individually. So for the display, I got this 40-inch TV from Sylvania. Anyways, I got a crazy deal on it. It was only $100. But yeah, being a cheap TV, it's not gonna be the slimmest or sleekest of TVs. So yeah, I'm gonna take it apart and hopefully rearrange things where I can get it as slim as possible. In doing so, I made a pretty cool discovery that almost made me change this project completely. You'll see what I mean in a bit. As for the design of the mirror, I wanted it to be full length and the TV just wasn't long enough for my taste. My plan was to add a section below and stick on some smaller regular mirror panels to save on cost. For construction, I wanted to keep things as simple as possible, so I designed the frame with the intention of using simple pine boards that already come in the exact widths and thicknesses that I need. I'm using 1x2s for the front frame and 1x3s for the box. To accommodate the IR touch frame, I used my router to cut out a recess in the front frame for it to drop into to allow the mirror glass to be closer to the front. The frame sticks onto the mirror glass directly with some 3M adhesive tape. I then use a combination of wood glue, brad nails, pocket holes, and clamps to join the pieces together. I'm not exactly sure how, but I ended up cutting this inner piece too short. I didn't have enough wood to cut out a whole new piece, so I extended it with a piece of scrap and attached it with wood glue and pocket holes. Thankfully, this will be on the inside where no one can see it, and when all was said and done though, I was super happy with the end result. This bottom section is the perfect place to store all of the electronics, so I need a door that blends in but is relatively easy to remove. For the backing, I'm using some 1/4-inch hardboard to keep things relatively lightweight. I cut out a recess in the front frame for the hardboard to slot into, then put things together with more wood glue. Unfortunately, the hardboard had a pretty serious curve that I tried to mitigate by clamping down a straight piece of wood during the glue up, but the results didn't meet even my standards. So that straight piece of wood ended up becoming a permanent feature of the door. As far as what electronics I'll be hiding behind that door to actually power the mirror, most people again have been using a Raspberry Pi. But after all of the shortages in recent years and with the current pricing, the value proposition just didn't make sense to me anymore. Luckily, I was able to score an awesome deal on Amazon for this mini PC. Performance-wise, this PC leaves the Pi in the dust, and with the deal I got in it even costs less than the Pi when you take into account all of the additional things you actually need to get the Pi up and running. Spoiler alert though, that mini PC won't actually make it to the end product. As far as what I end up using, it actually changed a couple of times and ended up causing way more of a headache than I had anticipated. In the end, it was totally worth it though, I think. Moving on to the TV, it was time to crack it open and remove some excess material to make it as thin as possible. The front bezel was a priority to remove so I could get the screen right up against the mirror glass. So I kind of jumped the gun on taking off the bezel there, and I'm looking at you through the reflection of the screen to show you something kind of cool. The LCD layer on most LCD monitors and TVs are actually translucent by default. I can lift this part up and get this cool transparent TV effect. You need a decently strong backlight to actually see anything, but still, kind of cool, right? After seeing transparent TVs trend at this year's CES, I was super tempted to put the mirror on hold and try to do something with this, but I already spent $300 on glass, and as for a future project, probably next time, baby. To prevent any further temptation, I applied some black electrical tape to make sure the LCD panel stayed put, and also to hide some of the electronics from view. The last thing to deal with was the TV's PCB. Since I don't need that much extra space at this point, I decided to replace the standoffs instead. I didn't have any lower profile standoffs on hand, so I used a screw and nut setup, which ended up reducing the footprint by around 1 centimeter. To get the frame ready to paint, I went ahead and filled any gaps with wood filler and sanded everything down. I'm using Zinsser Bin shellac-based primer, which is especially effective for sealing the hardboard panel. When dry, I sanded everything down and make sure I got a smooth finish. I'm painting the inner part of the frame black to reduce the potential for any unwanted light to shine through the back of the mirror. No need for this to look nice though, so I didn't bother with the primer. I'm painting the sides the same white as the walls are where I'm gonna hang up the mirror, and for the front I went with a metallic gold, and I really love the way it turned out. For now, anyway. With everything painted, I was super excited to put everything together. I made sure to give the TV and mirror glass a good wipe down since it would be a huge pain to try and clean that later. I covered up any exposed portions of the mirror with black electrical tape to make sure those areas stayed hidden. I then used these small L brackets all around to secure the front frame to the box. To secure the TV, I used these scrap pieces of wood that just happened to fit perfectly along the wedge sides of the TV. I also added some L brackets for some additional security. Then I thought to myself, well, they came in an 18-pack, so might as well get my money's worth. Now it's time for some cable management, and that's when I realized I forgot to cut out a notch in the frame for the cables. Thankfully, my oscillating multi-tool was up for the job, and I went ahead and secured the cables down with some hot glue. So something came up. You know how I scored that awesome deal on that mini PC I was gonna use? Well, an even awesomer deal came up for another mini PC that absolutely blew the other one out of the water. And here it is. I might have a spending problem, but that said, the extra computing power will definitely open up more possibilities with what I can do with a mirror. Is what I thought to myself at the time, but yeah, that PC doesn't make to the end product either. I have a problem. I have this old Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge lying around that's pretty worthless at this point, so I figured I might as well try to put it to work as a webcam. To actually use the phone as a webcam, I'm using an app called Droidcam. You install it on the phone as well as on your PC, and you should be good to go. I also 3D printed this little webcam cover to block the camera when not in use. Then it was just a matter of drilling a hole in the door to accommodate the camera and cutting out a notch in that scrap piece of wood I used to straighten out the door. To secure the phone in place, I planned on designing a custom 3D print that would allow not only this phone to notch in securely, but would also accommodate any future phones should I decide to swap out. Then I said nah, glued down a few L brackets, tied a couple zip ties, and called it a day. To make the door easily removable, I'm using these cabinet catch magnets I got off Amazon. I figured that one in each corner would be more than enough to hold the door, especially placed like this, as the magnets on the bottom of the door can rest on the bottom of the frame. Old Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge lying around that's pretty worthless at this point. So I have this old LG G8X phone lying around that I figured I might as well use as a webcam.
Easy!
So far, everything was going super smooth and exactly to plan, and I was super stoked to be just about finished. So naturally, it was time for a You see that blanket I have laid down to provide a nice soft cushion surface while I work? That super fuzzy fibrous surface? Turns out that's not exactly the best surface to use when your paint isn't fully cured. I was left with a nice pattern of that plush fuzzy surface on the front of my frame. I tried cleaning it and even using a magic eraser to hopefully buff it out, but nothing worked. The surface was literally squeaky clean to the touch, but there was little to no improvement in the marks. So I gave up, sucked it up, did my taping, sanding, and repainting in shame. But at least I was able to paint this small little cover too. That I ended up having to throw out because the paint screwed up the clearance. Ah well, silver looks good, right? To finish off the bottom door, I picked up a 4-pack of mirror panels on Amazon that installed easily with adhesive tape. To mount the mirror, I picked up these aluminum French cleats, also off Amazon. I opted to use these instead of cutting my own out of wood, mainly due to their super slim profile. To install it, it was as easy as attaching one cleat to the back of the mirror and another to the wall. Then it was just a matter of clipping the door in. Last but not least, of course I had to add some LED strips, which I installed with the help of this ridiculously handy tool. So I'm definitely not sponsored, but I love this thing so much that I'm going to talk about it anyway. It's listed on Amazon as a 4-in-1 laser level tool, but that description honestly doesn't do it justice. So the best feature of this thing is its vacuum suction cup thingy. Anyways, you place it on a flat surface, push the button, and this thing will just stick with a good amount of force, even on a porous surface like drywall. Where it's really changed my life is using the included 1/4-inch 20 thread attachment. With this, it's turned into a ridiculously convenient and versatile tripod replacement as long as you have something to stick it to. You can then screw on anything that mounts with 1/4-inch 20 thread, whether that be a more powerful self-leveling laser level, a variety of different cameras, even my phone, or some portable lighting. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. I have a link to it in the description down below. To prove I'm not sponsored, I was super impressed with this thing, so much so that I ended up buying the only other product they have on their listing, which is the stud finder. But that thing's absolute garbage. Don't buy it, it sucks. As for software, the mini PC I picked up, well, technically mini PCs come with Windows 11, so anything that runs there, which is a lot of stuff, is fair game. I'll be running the open source Magic Mirror software as my main dashboard, and that'll give me quick, useful information at a glance. Magic Mirror is super customizable as there are a bunch of downloadable modules created by the community that you can pick and choose to install to make your mirror a truly customized experience. So that's all fine and well, but again, it's been done before, and I was looking for my mirror to do more. So I had a pretty beefy mini PC in there now, and it was time to put it to work. Thing is, most of the software or applications that actually take advantage of touchscreens or cameras for augmented reality aren't usually designed with a PC in mind. Naturally, most of that development effort goes to the touchscreen focused multi-camera boasting computer that we carry around in our pockets. So I installed software called BlueStacks on the PC, which is an Android emulator, but anything emulated just doesn't run as smoothly as the original, and it was a pain to set up with my hacked webcam, which again, wasn't even a webcam in the first place, but a freaking Android phone. At that point, I just didn't know what to do anymore. How can I have smoother Android emulation while using an Android phone as a hacked webcam? What's that? Oh, the Android phone, right, obviously. I need to get rid of that and use a proper webcam, duh. But for real, I struggled way too long with troubleshooting BlueStacks performance and getting it to play nicely with my camera before realizing I could just use the Android phone directly without having to deal with emulation at all. Of course, this means I now have 2 mini PCs sitting idle that I wasted money on, but they were such good deals. So using my LG G8X as the brains of this thing has been absolutely fantastic. It came with plenty of headaches in its own right. Did you know how difficult it is to have an Android phone output HDMI to a portrait-oriented display? Neither did I, but it sucks. It used to work with simple ADB commands in Android 10 and below, and I don't know why they got rid of that, but unless you had a display with a sensor that knows when it's been rotated, you're gonna be stuck with portrait outfit on the phone shown on the landscape display. Just freaking rotate! I also had issues with the IR touch display working properly with this phone specifically, and yeah, it literally took about a month of troubleshooting and trial and error to get everything working properly, but here we are. The LG G8X downgraded to a custom hacked Android 10 ROM, and yeah, it was worth it.
It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
I'm not a poser.
All right, here's the finished product. Kind of in an awkward filming location and dealing with the lighting, especially when I have a mirror that wants to reflect everything that way, but I want to show what's behind the mirror. So the first thing I'm going to do is take whatever's on the screen here and shove it over there. So 90% of the time, what I'm going to be looking at when I see the mirror is this Magic Mirror dashboard. You have the basic necessities like the time, the weather, calendar, all important garbage schedule. And before I forget, lastly, I have a button here that turns on the LED lights that I had installed previously. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. And I actually have 3 pages set up in my dashboard. So I have the second page that has a full month calendar view. And then my third page is my home control page, which is literally my home assistant dashboard ported over to the mirror. And from here, I can control all of the lighting and thermostats throughout the house. For example, just turn on the kitchen lights just like that. So while that's nice and all, I mean, the whole premise of this video was I wanted my mirror to do more. So what else can it do? Basically, anything you can do on your phone, you can do on this mirror because it's essentially a big phone on the wall, which is pretty awesome actually. So the first thing I did was installed a bunch of games. So all the internals are just hidden behind this hidden panel here, including a speaker. I say internals, but it's essentially just the phone, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and demo this game. So yeah, you can see it runs pretty smoothly. So as far as games go, the most fun I've actually been having is with this web app from Google called Quick Draw. It's been around a while, but it's essentially Pictionary, but instead of playing with people, you're playing with AI, which is perfect because who needs friends anyway? And apparently when you play, your doodlings also help with machine learning research. So Skynet, if you're watching, remember, I got you. So how it works, you're given something to draw and then you have 20 seconds to draw something that the AI can hopefully recognize. So we'll start off with a suitcase.
I see rainbow. Oh, I know. It's
Rainbow? Come on, man. Come on. Okay, so I'm not very great at drawing. And if this is what Skynet's learning from fellow humans, you can thank me. So, I mean, this is something you can play on your phone, on a tablet, on your PC. But having it in this mirror format, you know, just gives it that little extra something. And beyond games, I mean, obviously you have any other apps you can install on your phone. Again, you can put here.
You know what we're not gonna do?
Anyways, you can doom scroll to your heart's content here as well. But obviously, I also have a camera here. My kids have a blast with Snapchat and the filters.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Now let's see how well you handle it.
So obviously, when using the camera, you got to step back a little bit because the camera position is kind of a little sus. But the camera also allows different augmented reality apps to work as well. For example, there's this one called Dress X. We can try on clothes. And there's also more practical uses. Talking about the Lululemon Smart Mirror at the beginning of the video. So there's this app called Insane Fit where you can actually do augmented reality workout. So that's just an example. Like, I don't know if this app is actually any good or not. It is a cool thing to try it on the mirror. So again, 90% of the time, I'm just gonna be looking at the Magic Mirror dashboard anyway. But one of the big problems with having a touch screen mirror, obviously, is fingerprints. I mean, we have that issue with phones and tablets, and it's just that much more exacerbated when you have a big surface that's supposed to be a clean reflection of yourself. So I don't have any real ways to mitigate that. I was thinking maybe I'll try a ceramic coating or something that I would use on the car. Those are typically hydrophobic. They're water repelling. You would want something more oleophobic, but I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm not going to spend a lot of money. But one important distinction between this and the touchscreen on your phone is that this is not a capacitive touchscreen. Again, it's the IR touch frame, the infrared touch frame. So technically, I don't even need my fingers touching the mirror. I could wear gloves. Technically, these are capacitive, so I mean, not the best demonstration, but I mean, if I use gloves with the mirror, I can clean it at the same time. If you think it's weird to have to put on gloves to work with your mirror, I mean, I just came back from Japan not too long ago, and I don't know if you guys have heard of a game called Mai Mai in the arcades, but the people that play it, I mean, they go absolutely crazy, and for sure they're wearing gloves, not just to keep the screen clean, of course, but because it reduces friction. But again, since it's an infrared touch panel, I don't need to use anything capacitive. I can use just a simple plastic stylus like this. And it works perfectly fine. If not better than fingers, really.
I see animal migration.
What? But again, that works pretty well. But if you couldn't tell from the gloves already, I'm a huge geek of the wizarding world. Lumos.
Ta-da!
I don't know if I'm going to include that. So anyways, super happy with that project. Thank you for watching. I got nothing else to say, so I'll catch you next time. See ya.